How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the James Loud Podcast. And today our special guest is Chet from Canna. How are you doing today, Chet?
Good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thanks for coming on the show. We've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, so Chet's in town for Emerald Cup. So we're both going to be at this amazing event that's been going on forever. It's the 20-year anniversary, I think.
I think that's right. Yeah, but the way they promote the culture is so exciting, dude.
Yeah.
So
and this is the first time in Oakland. We're going hip hop. It went from like Grateful Dead to
hippie outside.
To Too Short. We went from Grateful Dead to Too Short in a short matter of time. So I'm excited to see what they do with it. I love Oakland, obviously. Been working in Oakland my whole life, on and off. We were talking earlier about how you had a grow right down the street from where I had a grow when I was in Oakland. And those big basements. Yeah, when this is a while back, and we had a 50 lighter. It was almost 50 lights in a basement.
I had 12 in the like supposed to be the second living room.
Wow.
And I camouflaged it off, and I was like, this seems larger from the outside. I was like, oh yeah.
I mean, we were pulling so much power, the line was buzzing coming in the house. No one ever complained.
Well, and I hate to admit it, but there was also a time when you could get PG&E to recognize you as a low income person.
Right.
Because you didn't have a job.
Sure.
So you just qualified as low income. And so they would subsidize I was like, don't they see that I have a $1,200 power bill and they're subsidizing it?
So around 2014, they started giving breaks for people that bought electric cars. And so literally that year, all of my friends bought electric cars. They bought Nissan Leafs.
Right.
That were, they basically, you got 50% off of your power bill. And so
and you didn't use the plug. You just rewired that plug.
One of my friends, he bought 3 of them for 3 different houses and put them in different people's names, and then the power bill in their names, and was using that.
No names. We don't want PG&E coming trying to get their money back.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Even though they seem to take advantage of the customer these days.
Yeah, man, the power bills are a lot higher than they used to be. That's for sure.
For sure.
Everything's gone up though. Groceries.
Yeah. It's crazy. That's another podcast though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. The only thing that hasn't gone up is our favorite commodity.
Right. Well, no, I think the price on the streets is the same. The price in the dispensaries is the same. The growers are making a heck of a lot less.
They are.
The inputs have gone up.
Yeah.
The inputs like electric. Well, I mean, if we're looking at electricity, and then we're looking at, everything.
Warehouse. If
you own Canna or you own whatever it is, you're paying more to keep the lights on. You're paying more to pay your employees. You're paying more for those ingredients, whatever you need.
Every input.
Yeah.
And then of course, with the way the state treats it, like the best analogy, we were talking about my friend who runs High Fidelity. Shout out Chris Garcia. But basically it's like they'll charge you for the bologna, the lettuce, the bread, the cheese, and then they tax the sandwich as well.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, so every aspect, the bread maker gets taxed, the bakery gets taxed, the cheesemaker gets taxed. And then of course it's the sandwich maker gets taxed.
Well, my favorite saying is Uncle Sam is your silent partner. So that's,
and you don't own your property. You're just renting it from them with their property taxes.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. I hope sooner or later that, that it becomes some more not considered like cigarettes or alcohol, but more like cinnamon or turmeric. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think we're just starting to normalize it right now.
Yes.
As something that, as far as like, that's probably safer than alcohol or tobacco.
Of course.
But I think for the longest time, it was like, oh man, the devil's lettuce is bad stuff.
Well, we all know the story, right, of DuPont and Hearst, right? The paper and plastic people who demonized it with Reefer Madness. Watch it. Yeah. Watch Reefer Madness, and that's awesome
It'll blow
comedy.
Your mind. It'll blow your mind, especially if you smoke and then you're like, wait.
How did they get there?
What is going on here? Yeah. It's mind-blowing how we went from that, and then it took us so long. I mean, alcohol prohibition was very short in relative to how cannabis prohibition has taken so long. And there was generations of people that believed that it was bad. And now
your mom's generic, not your mom, but my mom's always like, so what about this? And I was like, oh, here's a salve, for your arthritis or whatever.
Totally.
She's like,
my parents are on board with the whole thing. They get it. They have no problem with it.
But do you remember when they didn't know what you did for a living?
Right. Well, yeah.
I mean, some people had that luxury of having those parents, but my parents the whole time were like, so what do you do? I was like, gardening.
Yeah.
I'm in the gardening industry.
Yeah.
So, even with this job and, even though the name, you're like, what?
So did you grow up in this area?
No, I think, I was somewhat of a military brat, right? And then I settled down and my grandparents owned a ranch in Malibu. So I lived there for a long time while my parents still traveled, and then went back and forth between there and DC. And then senior year of high school, I went to Palisades High School in LA. That's when I started really getting into, buying the product on the streets, and then being like, I can do this. All I need is space.
Right.
I grew up agriculture. And so then I moved, I went to high school, went to college in Texas, started there. That was a real hard.
What part of Texas?
Austin. San
Well,
Marcos.
Austin's all right.
Oh, it's a cool town, but
for sure.
Trying to figure out in 92, 93 on how to grow indoors without buying more air conditioning or growing outdoors. And once it hits about 190 something degrees, the plant goes, I'm not growing anymore.
Right.
You're wasting your time and money. So then I moved to San Francisco and,
game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you do 2 jobs to rent the other bedroom in the flat. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then as soon as that room pays off, then you tell the other roommates they can go because you're going to rent out their room.
Nice.
And then no one, the landlord's like, you're not doing all the other drugs that are in the streets of San Francisco.
Sure.
So, and then you're a good landlord. I mean, a good tenant, to the landlord. And so then I grew there. And then I did acquire a small issue living in San Francisco. I did seem to party a little too much. I don't want to get too, one day my kids might watch this. And so I don't want to,
go too deep.
Too deep. Yeah. I can tell off camera, but so I had to get my life in order. I moved to LA. And that's when I just put my head down and I was like, I'm not doing anything else.
For me, LA is like, I think of as a party city. And I think San Francisco is more like reserved, but you can party anywhere.
Right. All I needed was no assistance. I needed to get away from the people I knew. And so I moved to Pasadena and got a duplex and then lived in the living room and then went to the landlord and said, I need another duplex. And they didn't ask, Yeah. So I had a couple duplexes and then I met a woman, got her pregnant, and then she became my wife, still to this day. And I had to change. It's stressful,
Yeah,
it's stressful being in the black market. And
it's a lot different than it is today. It's like in California, it's a misdemeanor now. Back then. Back then
and then
it was
you can just say you have hemp.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it all falls under, not all of it, but a lot of it falls under THCA, which is hemp. I mean, we have the DCC and then we have, that's the big oversight. And then we have hemp licenses and, it's funny because that stuff is all as far as we're talking hemp license, not for flower, not in California. They don't put that one doesn't work here.
Too, but in other states,
Oregon, Kentucky,
Tennessee and Texas are the 2 that I know. And they're all CBD dispensaries, but they're selling flower.
They're selling flower that you can smoke and it will make you feel different.
I don't want to blow anybody's cover, but the new game is false COAs.
Yeah, I'm sure. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. And I'm just like, whoa, you guys are fucking messing with federal state documents?
Yeah.
I guess they're criminal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but even still, I think if you know what you're doing and you're growing the right cultivars, and most of them are the right cultivars, you can harvest early and it will show up as THCA. It's not going to be Delta-9 THC.
Right.
And if you're not heating it up, you're not going to get Delta-9 THC if the product doesn't start. So as long as you're not heating it up, you're going to have a product that's THCA, maybe some CBD, some other cannabinoids, but you're not going to have, the bad one.
Right.
Right. It's so funny because we live in an interesting time.
We do. It's exciting
because the whole United States should be like that, where you can go to any store and buy it as long as you're an adult.
Right.
I feel like I still believe in the whole adult thing. Even though when I was a kid, I got cigarettes when I was I got other people to buy my cigarettes.
High school was alcohol,
cigarettes. And
no, but I do think that. I think this is my libertarian point of view. I don't know if we get too many, but I think adults should be able to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
As long as they don't hurt anybody else.
Exactly.
As long as you know what I mean? You can hurt yourself.
I couldn't have said it better. Yeah. I mean,
but
even still, hurting yourself to a degree.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's some stuff.
Sure.
I don't think meth should be legal.
No, 100%. And I think that fortunately for us, the fentanyl and other hard narcotics has so overshadowed us that we can kind of get a little room to breathe. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
look at Oregon.
Yeah,
they had it. Everything was legal. You know,
and they're going back on that, right?
They're going back on it.
And which is you got to try it out. You got to figure out.
Somebody has to try it out. Right. How do we know if it's going to be good or bad unless we try it out? And it worked in Portugal. So places like Portugal, it works. You know, and I think, but it's not cookie cutter all over. Every situation is different.
That's the libertarian to me. I don't like the federal government. I like the state and local governments going, no, I mean, if you live in Nebraska, you should be able to smoke hemp. But if you live in downtown New York, you probably shouldn't, you know, it all depends, right? So, because each city, each town, each state is different. Yeah.
And I mean, I think there's a lot of things, you know, like that California could have done different. And
should do different.
But every state, we look at Oregon, they gave out too many licenses, right?
Right.
I feel like Washington,
Oklahoma,
they've had their own set of problems. Yeah, Oklahoma's a nightmare, right? Like they're, you know, and California did it pretty good, but we still have our own issues. The taxation is the worst part, and they've kind of gone. Is
it over 100% now on the final product? I think it's over 100%.
It's rough.
Isn't that crazy?
But I mean, just from like if we look at it, I think they just rolled back some of the taxes too.
Good.
In June 1st, June 1st, June 5th, something like that. So
I think also cultivators, I think also 40% of the revenue going to the police, to the law enforcement is probably a mistake as well.
Yeah, no, I don't think that makes sense.
No,
not for enforcement, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So yeah,
we're in a strange time, but you know, this is it's like building a small business though. There's a lot of trial and error that goes on, and if stabilization, it's not going to be stable for a while. We're going to go through this period of uncertainty for quite a while, and then it's going to stabilize and we're going to figure it out. I mean, look at the genetics are all over the place right now too. It's like a lot of the stuff is the same. People don't even understand what's different. They think they have this, but really they have this. There's a lot of we were talking about that earlier, the name game, right?
Right. The hustle.
We call it cut fishing. Also, that happens a lot. So they're like, oh yeah, here's the RS11, but really it's lemon cherry gelato.
Talk to some of these these LP manufacturers and how they will, because Metric will allow you to change the name.
Of course.
So if your wedding cake isn't selling, all of a sudden you can have something completely different and it's the same product. And no one, there's no verification.
Well, there's no verification. And that's the biggest thing is like, how do you verify it? Now, My Flora DNA out of Sacramento, they're doing some amazing stuff. I mean, the fingerprinting technology that we have now, we can identify stuff that's exactly the same, right? Based on markers. So it's
just like there's 30 something odd purples, and it's all just basically, in my opinion, from what I've seen in the last 35 years of me cultivating, it's just some granddaddy purple. I know you know more than me about this, but
I see a lot of. I mean, you can breed that trait into pretty much anything over time. But yeah, and I like Granddaddy Purple. We had Jimmy from Myers Creek talk about how he brought it to the market.
Yeah, awesome,
amazing story.
That's a great story.
Yeah, it's a great story.
And I'm not. I was actually giving that, props. I'm like, dude, it's from them.
I like GDP, but GDP, and then, cookies came along and gelato and Sunset Sherbet, and really, it blew up. And now purple is a qualifier for good cannabis, which is so silly.
That's not true.
Right.
It's not true.
It's not true. But people our age know
I can
that
just
for sure.
I can just drop the temperatures and make the phosphorus deficient, and boom, there's your purple.
Sure.
So anybody else that wants to make a purple strain out there, just get your water temps to about 58 degrees or lower, and boom. Yeah. Because temperature.
Drop your nighttime temps.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of
temperature
things
is just as important as pH for nutrient uptake.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. Once you get your pH, but then if your temps are off, too high, it just won't even take anything.
Right.
You're basically cooking it. You're killing it. And if it's too low, then it won't interface with all the macro and micronutrients that are in there. So you'll have deficiencies, which then, depending on what time you harvest in the plant,
Yeah.
So
you can go a little longer with the plant. It'll get more purple too. So
right. Well, just the same with Golden Goat. Golden Goat, the reason is because it's a 110-day strain and it's basically turning gold.
Yeah.
Like Acapulco gold. So that's, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm like, that's not Golden Goat. It's like, no, you didn't let it go long enough.
Right.
I'm like, I don't have 110 days in flower. You're like, well, then don't grow that strain. Grow your LA Confidential or your green crack. And then
I really like LA Confidential and I like green crack.
Yeah, I do too. That's why, yeah,
for sure. I like the LA Confidential. It's got this unique nose that's unmistakable, and it's got this nice gas to it. It's not the gassiest thing in the world, but it's got great gas.
Yeah.
It's got like the perfect amount of gas. It's a very well balanced.
What is one of your, I don't want to put you down, favorite strain of flower to ingest?
So people that watch the show, they all know this.
Sorry.
It's okay. But I will tell you that my favorite is cat piss of all time.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know how long
have you seen cat piss?
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Okay.
But I just saw sour diesel. In fact, I'm going to have some sour diesel this weekend at Emerald Cup.
Yeah.
Dude.
The real sour.
The real sour.
Do they still do like pre-98? Is that what do they?
Yeah, there's a pre-98 Bubba.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still, I love pre-98 Bubba too.
Yeah.
I love the soapiness of it. I love the uniqueness of that. You know, I can spot that in a grow room too. There's certain things that I've grown over my life where I'm like, just by looking at it, I'll tell you that's Bubba Kush. Right?
Yeah.
That's just one of those ones. I know the bud structure, the top, how the top grows. It's very unique. Same thing with sour diesel. When I've grown a bunch of sour in my life, and
that's same with Confidential. I can still I see Confidential in my head right now. I'm like, because it's so. And
it has a little bit thicker hairs too.
Yeah.
The Confidential has these yarn hairs a little bit, and I mean not to like the Durban that I grew back in the day had yarn where it covered up the crystals.
Yeah, it looked like a hippie chick.
Yeah. But the LA Confidential would start out as bigger hairs, but then the bracts would start to swell up, and when the bracts swelled up, they would make the hairs a lot smaller.
Yeah.
So, but LA Confidential, that's one of my classics.
Yeah. I was talking to you about this before. I'm really into the, I guess it's the older person in me, but train wreck.
Yeah.
The headband.
Yeah, headband. Like, so the headband is another one that, depending on who you ask, you can get 10 different opinions on what a real headband is.
And the names, because some people like, Humboldt headband, and then some people like 707 headband. And I'm like, I've seen both of those, and those are two totally different
LA
things.
headband. Right. There's all these different headbands. I mean, the 707 versus there was an OG Kush headband.
That's the one
that was the one that I liked.
Yeah.
That I got from, Noel is this guy Noel. He's from Nectar's.
Okay.
Nectar's Collective, and he was part of the Holy Water crew back in the day.
I know, yeah.
Yeah. Noel is the one that brought that headband up, and IC Collective had it, and dude, that thing is amazing. 2013 Cup, Loud Seeds. I was part of Loud Seeds.
Yeah.
And we won the first place with IC Collective with that. And that was the cut from Noel.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then, it's been fun to see, like, how, 4 years ago, Cap and his Mac 1 was the rage.
Yeah, it's funny how that was the rage. Some people still think of it and love it. And I'm not the hugest fan of the flower. I think it's very interesting. I have a breeding book, and in my breeding book, there's a case study on it because it's extremely special, right? As far as genetically, it is extremely
unique,
special.
Right?
It's unique. It's extremely special.
And I think it was an accident, right?
It's a partial triplet.
Sometimes they're an accident. I don't want to insult.
I think he intentionally bred that.
Okay, he worked on it.
He did, and I think he did some real selection on it too. Because if you work with any of the lineage, it comes out hazy. If you look at the other, we had a Max 69.
But it's not that hazy. The Mac
it's
one?
It's not.
But see, and I'm a haze guy, so
Max 69 that I got from First Class Genetics, who's one of my good friends, my buddy Ray, he gave me this other Mac, which was the Max 69, and that was hazy, very hazy.
I'm excited.
You could see how they were related.
Yes.
You could totally see how they were related, but it was like, whoa, this is haze, and this is like totally missing the haze.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think the haze craze is going to come back? Like I remember
it's already back in certain circles for sure.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so I would say the equatorial sativa, whatever that category is definitely slowly making a comeback. It's big over in Europe. I got some super silver in my bag that's mind blowing that you'll be like, what is that?
I can't wait till the end of this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Dude,
phenomenal.
Super silver lemon haze.
Yeah, super lemon haze.
Yeah.
Super silver haze.
Yeah.
Those are great. Those are making a comeback. We have those. Those are Greenhouse Seed Company, my good friend Arjan.
Oh, yeah.
He's Dutch.
Yeah.
Well, he's all kinds of stuff, but Greenhouse Seed Company is from over there.
And just speaking of them, I was talking about Adam Dunn the other day.
Yeah, he's a character. Speaking of Holland, we might as well just throw Adam's name into the mix.
Listen, he was the one, one of the very first that said, I'm just going to go over there. And then, he heard what was happening in Denver, 15 years ago and
jump ship.
Yeah. He's like, I can go back home now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that MK Ultra that he did,
that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like MK Ultra. Those are nostalgic for me. And
that's what I was back to my point is that's the kind of stuff I really like.
Yeah, we were talking about Romulan. I really like Romulan back in the day. I think there was
White
different
Widow
Romulans.
and Romulan, right? Aren't they a generation?
So similar years. And so that White Widow, there was different expressions of it. We only had we got this stuff called the White Widow that wasn't anything like the European White Widow, but it would make you sweat like crazy. We called it the sweat.
The sweat. Okay.
We got it from Richmond. And these guys grew it, and it was expensive. It was like $4,000 a pound or something like that. Richmond here, yeah.
Really?
These guys used to grow killer White Widow.
Is Richmond still the scary neighborhood that it?
There's areas in Richmond that are still bad. Yeah, of course, for sure.
Of course. Romulan and White Widow. Oh man.
What about you? What's your desert island strain?
I think it's shoreline. I think
that's so fun. Is it okay? So now this is another great topic for discussion. So I work with shoreline.
I am one of the few.
The Texas shoreline or the Amsterdam?
Not me. I know the devil. What's his name?
Devil's Harvest. Yeah,
that guy. So he only got half of it.
Those are my boys. Yeah, but so they bred that with Soma's lavender.
Okay.
So they bred it with Soma's. Okay. No, it was with Soma's lavender. So I believe that the real shoreline.
I can get that.
I had it. I bred with it. Yeah. It's really good. But I would say that that's from the skunk family.
It is. It's skunk number.
It's skunk something.
Yeah.
It's skunk.
Yeah.
It's skunk.
Yeah. It's from a bag at a 1988, 1989 dead show at the Shoreline Amphitheater. My boys got a bag.
There you go.
And they had one seat in it. Yeah. And then they started in their closet. And then another person, Paul Hansen, God rest his soul, he blew up with it. And then Houston, which is a huge consumer market, made it commercially viable.
Yeah.
And then I got a hold of it because I knew those guys and Shoreline. Yeah.
I made some crosses with the Shoreline. In fact, we called one of them Bucky's. And if you're from Texas, you know what Bucky's is. You get the inside joke, right?
Yes, I like it. I like it a lot.
And I love that Shoreline cut, and it's strong. It's got this unique nose. I did some work with the Fort Collins Cough too. That's another one that I really like.
Yeah.
But it's a tall, and I crossed it with the banana Skittles.
The Fort Collins Cough has still got, people making money off of it up there.
I think so, and it's hard to get. Not a lot of people want to grow it. It's a big, tall plant. If you grow it outdoors, it just wants to grow straight up.
Yeah.
I think the one I had in my backyard was 11 feet tall or something like that.
So have you grown Trainwreck outdoors before? Because I've only grown it indoors.
No, so Trainwreck is one of those ones. A lot of my friends grew Trainwreck.
Yeah, that was my first moneymaker.
It always looks funny. It never looks like the happiest plant.
No,
but,
and then the bud
it grows into clusters.
And I think the Adam Dunn said basically it was called Trainwreck because it turns your grow room into a train wreck.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Instead of there's no a train hit something or some story.
Or it hits you like a train wreck when you smoke it.
No, because it's a daytimer. It's I call it work weed.
Yeah. But it's strong too. It's strong. That's why I always thought it was called train wreck because you feel like a train wreck.
But you can bang out some emails or some reports on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So train wreck. But yes, I think Shoreline is my go-to. The older version, I think, the problem too, you can talk on this, is the genetic drift. And so Shoreline never had, not so many people put it back to seed, right? So you're taking, a cutting of a cutting of a cutting, and 20 something years later.
It's different than you remember it from back in the day.
If you happen to ever acquire the first couple cuts, right? Which don't exist because either they've turned to trash or or mold or
we have this little thing called tissue culture,
which I'm so excited about now.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after the show. But getting that through tissue culture, and then a lot of those things. I think I was thinking sour diesel had a lot of that going on.
Yeah,
and I thought these guys, because I've seen sour diesel from 10, 15 different people over the last year. People were like, "Oh, this is some sour. This is some sour." A lot of people have given me sour diesel samples, like, "Oh, bro, here you go. I know you're looking for the sour." And they give it to me, and it's like, it reminds me more of Chem 91 than it does of sour diesel. It's got that burnt tire, but it doesn't have that like strong.
Do you think, what is the relationship between Chem Dog and Sour Diesel?
Sour Diesel
is the predecessor?
I believe it's a bag seed of Chem 91. Now we can argue this because everyone has their different.
I don't want to start that.
I think the people watching the show will argue this, and
they'll be sending in. They're typing right now, huh?
I went and I tried to source as much information as I could as possible, and we believe.
Is there any relation to Hell's Angels on either one of those?
I don't think so.
Because that's the story I heard.
Hell's Angels.
Yeah, and the cross between that and some Deadheads.
Yeah,
which back in the 60s were. Yeah.
Weasels. Well, I mean, maybe from there's the whole Chem Dog story.
Right.
And we don't need to go into that right now. No. But that was another Dead show.
Yeah.
Like that was, Deer Creek.
Yeah.
That was Deer Creek, 1991. I still have, I have, someone gifted me tickets from that show.
Gotcha.
So I got the tickets that are mounted and framed.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that
was a special day.
Are at the fish show this weekend on the East Coast right now. It's crazy.
Nice. Well, Billy Strings is playing on Saturday and Sunday at the Greek this weekend.
Yeah, I know.
I love Billy Strings. His music's amazing.
Dude.
So how did you get involved with Canna?
So let's see. I had my grows in LA, 2002, 3, 4, 5. And I got a woman pregnant, wonderful wife. And she's like, you need a job. I got 2 duplexes going on. We're good. She's like, no, you need to get health insurance and you need to get, a reputable, you need a paycheck to put in the bank so that we can borrow money.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to go work for Better Grow in Pasadena. And I worked for them doing the warehouse. He was the first guy to do internet text, like reviews and stuff, So we're talking 5 and 6, 2005 and 6. And so I was working for him, got my grows. And I started using Canna in 2000. When I moved to LA, I was tired of the general hydroponics.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that I was missing something, which I was,
Yeah.
I had to make the next step up. So the guy who worked at the store that I finally worked at said, have you ever tried Canna? And I was like, no. And it was, relatively new to the market. I think it got here in 99.
Yeah.
It's been in Holland for 30 years.
Forever.
Yeah.
As long as I can remember.
Yeah. So, and that's pretty much, the staple of Europe. That and, believe it or not, BioBiz are the 2 big.
Yeah. But Canna's been around forever. Like as long as I can remember, they've had Canna. It's,
Yeah. Like I said, it is as old as GH.
Yeah.
Just not in the United States.
Right.
So I was using that. And of course that changed I became a better grower.
Yeah.
And so then I moved to Texas, back to Texas because I couldn't afford to live in California with a wife and a kid. And so I bought some duplexes there, and I was about to do the same thing. And I just told myself, it's not going to work out. So I started a trucking company, with all my investments. And then 2007 and 8 happened, and the construction world died.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I need to go back to making money. So
the bubble burst.
Yeah.
The housing market just crashed.
No one was buying materials.
I had so many friends that lost their houses because of the loans,
the mortgages.
Right? Yeah, basically that was the year. Where
that was also when everybody they had gotten the loan 6 months to a year before, and they were adjustable rates. So the first 6 months, you're at it, but then they jacked up the adjustable rates
where you couldn't afford it.
Right,
you couldn't afford the monthly.
If you didn't refinance out of that loan,
and then you just default.
Yeah. But you got to live there for 8 months or a year.
Yeah.
But so that happened. I sold my trucks, parked one of my trucks, sold one of my trucks. And then I bought a rental house or turned the rental house back into a grow, and then did that and worked back at a retail store. And then my old friend who worked for Canna said, why don't you come work for us?
Nice.
So in 2011, I started subcontracting, contract work. And then in 2012, I got a full-time job.
Cool.
Yeah. So I've been with them for 12 years.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's been great. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good company. I feel like,
I work for a Dutch company, so it's not a typical, they have different, health insurance and
there's less oversight with the company over there.
Yes. And so, I've been, dude, and I think it's sort of like, we were talking about our friends at Royal Gold. Working for a quality company is half their job.
I'm telling you.
You know what I mean? When you're just like, oh, what do you, so.
And when you feel like you're part of the family too. And,
yes.
I sat my guys down today and we had this conversation, and I said, I hope it's always like this, but I don't think it's, as we grow, it's going to be different. Right now we have a tight team and I have the best guys working with me. Like literally I have the best guys.
Yeah.
We're a tight team. Everybody's, on board and everybody's happy all the time. And when you get a big company together, as you grow, it's not always like that. The second you have 20 employees, it's different, right?
And then
you can try to make it takes a lot of work, right? And it's just a different culture.
Well, then once your priorities change and everybody's like, well, let's make some more money.
Right.
No longer is this just my passion, but now I want it to be a financial, productive endeavor.
Yeah.
Then you have to sort of start with the handbooks and the protocol.
Right.
And, the streamlining and,
we use SOPs for everything, but like we've tried to incorporate the culture early on, it's like, but also I want my guys to feel appreciated because I've worked for big corporations. I've worked for small companies. I've been a business owner before.
Yeah.
And, my parents were business owners. So I got to see firsthand, what it was like with 50 employees. And I've worked for companies that had thousands of employees. I worked for Charles Schwab back in the day.
Okay.
So I've done a little bit of everything. And I think it's great to have employees that want to come to work. They're excited to come to work. They get treated well. They get respect.
Dude, the productivity and the product quality and your ease of management is facilitated on how happy the employee is to be there and how much they want to come back the next day.
Well, and they're a representation of you. So if you train them correctly,
right,
then they're going to represent you in the best way possible, exactly how you would want it done.
To
but
be
if
represented.
you don't, and there's a fine line where it's like where you're over managing or micromanaging, and that's bad. But it's also, if you train them from the beginning and you train them the right way and you're able to spend, I'm able to spend a lot of time with people.
Right. It's the professional, I read this about, I don't know if it was Nick Saban or it was another college coach, but maybe Mac Brown. College coaches don't pick plays.
Yeah.
They don't design. They may have a system or whatever, but most of them are just culture.
Yeah.
Just the culture of the program.
Yeah.
And then they instill every day whatever aspect of a culture of a program they want. I think that's true for positive businesses.
Yeah.
You want to have this culture, and then you let the people you've hired do the management and the jobs. You know what I mean? Once in a while, more than anything, you're just solving inter problems. You know what I mean?
Right. And if you have systems in place, the employees fall back on their systems, and that's how they do their job. It's based on the system.
Right.
So it's like, I have to do this, and this today, and this is what I have to do for this week. And, if you can help them with the time management, like this is what's required, this is what we need done. And a lot of times it's just reverse engineering the problem, right?
Yeah.
So like, or the solution, so
exactly.
It's all reverse engineering. We look at the end product. We want this amazing clone. How do we get an amazing clone?
Right.
Well, we have these steps that it takes, and then we have this window to sell them. Or we need amazing seeds, right? And we want the most beautiful looking seeds. And how do we get the most beautiful seeds and the most amazing seeds that are going to germinate for everybody, that not only look great, but they grow well, they have minimal intersex traits.
Right.
All these things, and it goes back into, you can dive back into the pheno-hunting aspect of it and testing. Are you thoroughly testing stuff?
Right.
And are you testing it? And then also, are you testing it before you sell it?
Right. Because that was a trend. I hope it's changing, that I saw about 3 Emerald Cups ago, was where these guys were like, I was like, there's no way you even grew this pheno. Like, how are you selling these?
Well, people would just get stuff, make seeds, and then sell the seeds and not test it.
And never grow the plant. Yeah. Never grow that pheno.
Well, and we make over 300 outcrosses a year, and we release a very small portion.
Right. Because they're not all winners. It can't be all winners.
No, and we don't have, and even beyond that, we don't have time to go through everything. If I do release stuff that has intersex traits, it's because it's special. And if you pop a 10-pack of seeds, you're going to find special stuff in there. And I try to let people know online. So if you look on the website and you go to that specific cross, it'll say that this has potential for intersex
these tendencies,
traits.
Right?
And
as long as you disclaim it,
long as you're disclaiming it, and people are still really interested, because a lot of people are like, I got to have this. I got to have a cross with this in it.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely we'll move away from that stuff. We're about to do clone sales as well.
Right, which is exciting. We talked about that.
It's exciting to be able to do clone sales, I think, domestically, and to be able to get clones that you're on your doorstep that are from tissue culture, that are certified, clean, pest and pathogen, authentic, verified. We do fingerprinting on everything that we're going to be shipping out. So like you'll be able to test, you'll be able to see our test results. You'll be able to look at everything that it's went through as a hop latent viroid clean, because that's a really big topic right now.
Man, have you talked about that yet?
We have, in
it's like the boogeyman.
It is, and the thing is like, it's about the first thing is awareness, right? You need to know, you need to be aware. What is it? Right. How do you transmit it? It's
how does mechanically
transmitted.
What is it? What
does it look like? What are the symptoms, first of all? Because there's also a lot of symptoms that are not hop latent that are other things. So you need to know a lot of signs of different things. But also, what are the signs of hop latent? How do I treat it? Do I just get rid of the plant? Do I tissue culture it? Is that important that I need to clean it?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of genetics out there. Is it really worth cleaning that thing? Or
are you okay with losing 10 to 30% of your yield, right? I mean.
Well, and it varies because it can lay dormant.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have some stress and you lose anywhere between one plant, a whole row, half of your crop.
Yep.
And you just never know. And the thing, people had the blindfolds on for a long time and didn't want to believe it.
No, I've seen denial. I've seen denial. It's sad. You're like, dude, you got hop latent virus. Like, no, it's just I was like, okay.
Well, you're buying clones from other people. You're bringing those in, and are they really testing for it?
No.
Now, let's say you do your own clones, and but like you've used clones from other places, and then you're using the same drippers that were in plants that were infected. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to infect your plant.
Of course.
Right? And so there's so many different ways to get infected.
Yeah.
We use clean tools on everything. So even our tissue culture plants, between the plants, we still use clean tools with every plant.
Right.
So we'll use on the same plant.
It's worth it just to have
just peace of mind.
A case of this instead of,
Well, and it's like if one plant is infected, we can pull it.
Yeah.
But we don't get infected plants because everything's from tissue culture.
Right.
So, but we still take precautions. What if for some reason something, it tested negative and then all of a sudden it's now positive? Because it's that bad. It's honestly that bad to where you can have a negative test and it's a false negative, or the viral load is so low
it just hasn't had a chance to
and then all
replicate.
Of a sudden,
boom.
And we're talking about there's people that are treating it. There's chemicals that you can put on the plant, and I think those are mostly Band-Aid fixes, right? So
right.
Like, they sound good in theory,
but they also need specific application, right? I mean, you can't. Our industry's always had that. The super mite.
Yeah.
How we Californians created
the mites are the worst. Yeah.
And the lackadaisical half-ass procedures that people used.
Well, and it used to be like, we're just going to spray this, and this on it. We got the trifecta.
Yes.
It's the Avid, the Judo, and I don't remember what the other one was. I always forget.
Yeah.
But Forbid.
I was going to say Forbid.
Yeah, it was Avid, Judo, and Forbid back in the day. It was like, the trifecta. You just rotate through them. But I mean, who sprays that stuff? Nobody does that anymore. And if you do, there's something wrong with you. You don't need to do that stuff.
That's why I usually don't consume other people's cannabis.
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
Unless I know, because you're like, what the?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's one of the beauties of testing that I really like. That's the good side of the regulated market.
Yes.
That is the
absolutely
good side.
The essential side, right?
Where it holds people accountable for that kind of stuff. I've talked about this with a couple other nutrient companies, but back in the day with the nutrient companies, most of them, if you followed the recipe that was on the bottle, you would have a subpar product, right? There wasn't a lot of R&D done on their side because it was illegal for one thing.
Right. And
there's a lot of reasons.
That was one of the things that separated us from most people over there is that, we did specific nutrient application studies for specific plants. There is no such thing as a crop specific nutrient that is. I mean, a lot of people like to believe that, you know what I mean? But there is a crop specific application.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, there's specific recipes that work and pH ranges that work with different plants.
Right. And CalMag, that's always the big one.
That's the big one.
Yeah. I love a friend of mine's did the Saturday Night Live skit. He goes, I grow good weed like everybody else. One pant leg at a time, but you're going to want more CalMag. You're definitely going to want more CalMag.
You're going to want more CalMag.
Yeah.
It's almost for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an important one. And I mean, I think across the board, though, there's lots of decent nutrients available. There's lots of really
decent,
right?
There's a difference between, I've always preached this because people go, hey, that works. And I'm all, there's a difference between something that works. So that's the opposite. There's failure. And then the next thing after failure is success. The only definition for me of success is not failing. Yeah. But then way down the line on a graph is production, is quality production. Mm-hmm. So, there are a few out there that don't get you all the way to a quality production unless you heavily manipulate the application. And at that point, you're sort of just not even really using as an intended. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and there is no other crop that is consumed and combusted at the same time. Tobacco would probably be and
it's still not the same. Not even close.
So, but everybody's like, oh, I just grow this like big. Everybody's worried about big ag coming in, which it is already here.
It's already here.
Yeah. But at the same time, you don't smoke cotton. Yeah. You don't smoke corn.
Not yet.
So I always think that that's the difference. You know what I'm saying? When big ag comes in, it's just sort of like the difference between hothouse tomatoes that you see in the grocery store and heirloom tomatoes that you grow at your own house.
Yeah.
We know that there is almost, it's almost not too, one is not a tomato, right? An heirloom tomato that doesn't look, that's funky, that you grew in your garden, that from heirloom seeds is a tomato.
Well, there's more varieties of cannabis than any other agricultural product out there. There's way more variety and availability of different varieties than anything else. You look at tomatoes, how many types of tomatoes, even if we talk about heirloom tomatoes that are available to the general public in grocery stores, there's a very limited amount.
Right. There's only four. There's only four at the most in every grocery store.
Yeah, and we talk about bananas. There's one.
Right.
There's one. You might get a plantain or one of those miniature bananas.
Right.
Right. And then pineapples.
I was just gonna say there's like four. Well, there's four. What I just recently realized is the varietal strains of sugarcane.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and their characteristics, which is exciting. So
I like sugarcane. I think it's really amazing.
I love rum. So
yeah. I like sugar.
Yeah. That's that was back to our original topic about, prohibition and stuff and our parents and the generations before, looking down on that. But they would make you sweet tea or Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Until this day, sugar doesn't get the bad name it deserves, the cancer causing.
Dude, it's the worst. Sugar is the single worst.
Yes.
That is worse than alcohol. It is worse than tobacco. It's more addictive than heroin.
Yes.
Sugar is the enemy.
And what it does to your body and how your body tries to process it.
It'll make you diabetic.
Yeah.
It'll kill you. It'll cause cancer. It feeds cancer.
That's basically
feeds cancer cells. That's why you got a cold plunge.
Yeah.
That's extremely important.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Cold plunging builds brown fat cells. Brown fat cells need glucose. They require glucose to maintain. And so if you do cold plunging, you build up that brown fat cells, the glucose.
Or even just a cold shower.
The brown fat competes with your cancer cells, right?
Exactly.
Cold showers work good too.
Yeah, just
but
as
really that cold plunge will get you the brown fat.
2 minutes that you sit in there.
2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes.
I can't do more than about 2.5.
It depends on how cold it is.
Yeah.
I go 5 minutes has been my go-to.
Okay.
Right. I like the 5 minute threshold.
Yeah.
But I feel like I get the most benefit because it takes me 2 minutes just to relax fully, like where I'm breathing and I got my breathing down, and then I can get 3 minutes of breathing in to where I'm fully relaxed and I get out and I feel just amazing.
Awesome.
So, and I also do the sauna. So I go, I do that 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I love the post-workout cannabis sauna combo.
Yeah.
That's
sometimes when I smoke, if I smoke too much and then I try to go in, it's 10 times hotter than it would
your
be
brain is like, what are you doing?
Well, and then I sweat like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the sweating part, but man, sometimes I just overheat.
Yeah, I became a fan of foam insulation. And I definitely think grow rooms could use that. I've been a big promoter. I built a house in Texas, Austin, a couple of years ago. And the guy introduced it to me. It was pretty much new then. And the only thing that we are concerned with is off-gassing. It's a chemical process, sort of like rosin or anything like that. And so, but it basically turns your house or room into a Yeti cooler.
Oh, wow.
So I've been trying to promote that. And
I like Yeti coolers.
Right. Well, they work really
I also
well.
like Rockwool. Did you know
Yes.
the same rock wool that's in the grow rooms are
insulation?
It's insulation.
And listen, as a person who makes media,
yeah,
cocoa is our go-to. We were one of the first, because was the first.
Yeah.
Right.
You were one of the first people with cocoa out there.
Right. We were one of the first to realize that one, you have to quality source the cocoa. You can't just go to Sri Lanka or India, which a lot of people do, and that's fine.
Sure.
But you're going to have inconsistencies. So you're going to want to do your own cocoa, just like you do your own nutrients or your own tray.
Like your own cocoa farm.
Right. So we worked on that, and we also realized that, cocoa has been around as a media. I think it hit a World's Fair in 18 something. It was like introduced in 18, like one of the first, over 100 something years has been known as a reusable media.
Right.
But it has these unique properties that nobody really quite understood that we put a lot of research into, which is one, it's CalMag deficient. So it needs to be buffered.
For sure.
Right. So your nutrient, either you need to pre-buffer it with CalMag or you need to add CalMag to the nutrient mix to get a higher, or you need to use hard water, right? That's what we relied on when we first came to the States was people were going to use like LA or Arizona or
they're not using RO water, they're using hard water.
Hard water. So we which has CalMag in it.
Sure.
Mostly,
some,
yeah, right.
So
we supplemented with that, but it's basically like banana peel. It's got potassium in it, and as it degrades and breaks down as you grow, it starts to kick out potassium.
Yeah.
So you don't need a high potassium. By the time it's flowering, it all depends on the media size. Whether you're using a 1 gallon, 5 gallon, or anything larger. I don't know. I think that's gone away now, right? Are we done using the 10 gallons in production?
I don't know. I mean, I think at scale, yes.
Yes.
At scale, yes.
Right. 7's too much
for the house.
No. But if you want to bet,
okay,
outside is a different story. I'm still talking about indoor production cultivation.
No, I don't think if we're talking about production, I think 10 gallons been gone for a long time. Right. My aunt and uncle used to grow living soil, 10-gallon pots, used to crush it.
Yeah.
And they would have 4 10-gallon pots per light. So they'd have less plants.
Right.
They would veg for longer. They would top them.
Two month veg.
They were getting amazing yields.
Yeah.
They were getting amazing yields. Yeah. You're doing a 2-month veg on those and you're topping them and you're really scrogging them.
Yeah.
But I think they're gone for commercial. Well, I can't imagine, unless you're doing living soil and you were reusing them, but then you just do a bed.
Right. Oh, dude, raised beds.
Yep.
If you can manage the maintenance and, the protocol on a raised bed, and, now we're talking headier stuff than production stuff.
Right.
I saw this in the grape world, in the wine grape world, and I definitely believe it. The competition for nutrients in a raised bed gives you a smaller yield, but a higher quality product.
Yeah.
Depending on the genetics, obviously.
Flora Flame in Oakland.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have time to go check them out.
Okay.
They're organic living soil, low till.
Yeah.
At scale. They're doing amazing stuff, and they're in Oakland. Go figure.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. That's one of the guys I taught me a little bit in San Francisco. He had a spot right off Cap.
Yeah.
In the hood, and he bought the house, in the mid to late 80s, but he had this grow in there and he was just doing raised beds, the living soil raised beds technique. And it was some of the best fire I'd ever seen. And I was like, he's like, yeah, but it's a bitch to clean and maintain, But, I think more and more I was first, because I saw the Dutch method, which is 1 day veg, 2 day veg.
Right.
And you're in
sea of green and you're going
because it's based off the tulip. We're just doing floriculture.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing is we're growing flowers. And there is a whole industry that's been around for centuries.
Yeah. And the Dutch are the kings
of floriculture.
Absolutely.
So I saw this method back early on and I was like, oh, so I would put 49 in a 4x4. Try to get half gal pots.
You and Ed Rosenthal.
Dude, and everybody's like, I get more. And I was like, no. Not only do I get more per 4x4, I use less light. And I get more rounds down in a year.
Right.
And everybody's like, no. Because I knew a lot of guys who were doing 4 on a 4x4.
Yeah.
This closer to what you were discussing.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're putting a lot of time and money. Because everything in this world's based off time.
Yeah.
Everything's basically based off the 30-day mortgage payment, the 30-day rent, the 30-day electric bill, the 2 15-day pay periods, right? So that's how you should dictate everything is by time. And the less time you can, more out of less time, the more productive you're going to be.
The more profit you make at the end of the year. Yep.
And the more you're going to be able to facilitate other things. Right. So, but now more and more, I'm seeing everybody go to the 1 gallons, and I'm just like, finally like, great job.
1 gallons, 16 plants per, I mean, we do 9, right? Some people, we're doing crop steering. Right. So everybody's got their own way.
Right. But the less veg time you do in a smaller pot, the more plant matter you're not wasting. Because if you take if you do your one month veg, okay, and then you flower, and then you harvest, and then you take all the root and all the stem and all the fan leaves that you can't get more money out of, right? I mean, sometimes you can get a little bit of a fan leaf, 4% or something, right?
But sell those terps. You can sell terps off your roots.
Right.
I don't know who'd buy them, but there's terps in those roots.
I know. I just buy Chinese terps. That's a joke.
Right. I do love the smell of terps in the roots.
Yeah.
There's something special about that. If you guys don't know, smell your roots next time.
Yeah.
Especially if you grow good
always
flower.
Do a good stem stroke. Man, I am the king of the stem stroke.
Stem rub.
Yeah, dude. Because that's the
oil, the indicator. I mean, certain plants just express differently too.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like
that's their jam. Some of them are like, God damn, this thing's a baby.
Yeah.
So, but getting away from that, you take all that product that you can't turn around, that you have to destroy in most states, right? Mm-hmm. And you weigh that, and then you also take you add in another time factor is the trim time. Right now, most people are throwing a Green Bros or a Twister.
They better not be, but they are. They shouldn't be. Hand trimming.
Okay, wet or
finger
dry?
Trimming.
Wet or dry?
My opinion. I used to trim back in the day wet, but I do believe in dry trim. Right, I do believe in hanging.
Humboldt taught me that. If anything, Humboldt and Covelo taught me cut it down into big sizes.
Let it hang. Fans off. Let it hang.
Hang in the barn.
Yep.
And get that 2-3 week dry, because the moisture. I saw guys.
I think 14 days is the perfect dry.
Right.
But
it depends on how close to the coast you are.
Yep. It also. Right. I mean, I think
California style.
Control the room 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
60,
dehumid
60,
or humid,
whatever.
But don't do it aggressively. There were some guys who were dehumidding, and I was like, "You're a cheat, just dude. No one, why no one's buying your stuff? Because you got dehumids in your fucking dry room, okay?
Right.
So, but you want that cure process to happen,
Yeah.
And so then that's why I still am against Colorado weed, because it's 10% humidity, and unless you throw
rough, it's so
dude, it turns the powder and
Washington's the opposite, where it's too humid. Then we got Colorado that's too dry. But anymore, you can have a controlled environment if you can afford it.
Right.
Like,
I think it depends on how important it is to you. It's just like a cigar.
I think you need a humidifier and you need a dehumidifier.
Yes.
I think
air conditioners have a little bit of dehumid in them, so you can cheat a little bit there.
A little bit, but you still you want to be able to control it precisely, right? Throughout the whole cycle. And, and then some people go 50% the first day and then bump it towards 63 or whatever you want to do. There's so many different ways.
I saw heads that were IV dripping big plants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they would have water dripping it so that they'd get like a 21. There's up on the hill. There's some crazy shit going on. They're probably doing drugs.
Could be.
Or
giving drugs to their plants.
Dude, one of my yes. Well, that was one of the one is period blood. One of the guys. Yeah, I take my girl's period blood. I was like, dude, what a fucking hippie, dude.
I don't want to smoke that.
No.
Smoke that.
And then one mind blower was growing to the moon cycle indoors. And at first I scoffed. And then I realized gravity is everywhere.
Yeah.
Even in the room. And the pull of the moon and anything that it affects, people are like, you're crazy. That's crazy. I was like, no. I mean, cultivating by the cycles of the moon.
Germinating seeds, all that stuff.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yes. Sure. And so, not that it's a game changer, but it is a factor, right? That you could consider, and it all depends on how much you want to put into that. But I think that nobody should be in something, back to the original point, no one should be in something larger than a 2-gallon container if you're indoors on a production level.
Yeah. Back in the day, I used to buy those Dutch pots.
Oh, yeah.
5-gallon. Oh, yeah. The square ones. Or the hole in the bottom.
Or the Dutch leach trays.
Yeah.
And you put a 6-inch slab in that Dutch leach tray, and then you put 4 to 5 DM, the 4-inchers.
Yeah.
The DM10s.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the jam. I still think that's the jam.
Yeah.
You veg that, for a couple days, and then you put those in the Dutch, you cut the little in the slabs.
Right.
And then, and you do that. And 2-3 days after that, you flower. Because you only want one flower per plant. You know what I mean? You're
trying to get one bud.
Right. And then your trim time is like, instead of on the green bros or the in the twister where you're just like, oh, you just killed it.
Yeah.
So I understand commercial people, especially with a trimmers now. I mean, it used to be $200 a pound up on the hill, but Christ, now that's half your profit, right? Some trimmers can do better than others, Yeah,
I don't like any of the trimming machines. No. I think it ruins weed. I think it knocks off trichomes. There's nothing you can do about it. I like Canna brush. I like finger trimming. I like scissors.
This is how I used to trim.
Yeah, that technique though, you could tell. That's the tech right there for sure. Like
as soon as you get about 2 plants in, two buds in, you've got all that resin and some of my favorite product to smoke, scissor and finger hash.
Of course. You can't go wrong with scissor and finger hash.
I think it's holistic. I don't think there's any proof to that, but it's like live rosin. It's like the first.
You're capturing those live terps.
Yeah.
It is live rosin.
Yeah, that's the first live rosin,
but it's live finger hash.
That was the first version, right?
Oh, I mean, and those terps were amazing. And you put those in your joint and it'd be like
on your bowl. You put that on your bowl?
Yeah, to match the weed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those were the days.
That's sort of like Vino Verde. You know what Vino Verde is? Green wine. It is the wine you drink when you make wine. So in the spring, they take a certain amount of young grapes. Yeah. And then they harvest them and they process them and, let them sit. And it's only at about 4 or 5% alcohol. Sure. Because but it's the wine you drink while you're making the wine.
Bud Light of wine.
Right. But that's sort of like how scissor hash is, Right. That's the hash you smoke while you make hash.
I love it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. But trimming, I mean, I used to keep in mason jars. Like my personal, I didn't even really trim the sugar leaf off it. I'd put it in mason jars. Right. When I smoke it, I would trim it and smoke it.
I still think that's the best way to do it. Now, commercially, you're going to get a consumer who's not going to want to pay for that. Right?
All my sour diesel I used to have like that. So like when I gave jars to my friends, like Leo from Aficionado, the first time I met him, I gave him a jar of sour. It was freaking, it still had all the sugar leaf on it.
And that is a lot of the time that's still a consumable product. I mean, it's sort of like, I can't think of any other kind of product like that. It's like the crust on bread or, you know what I mean? Like, it's not the best part, but it's.
No, and the thing is like, I think the leaf, the sugar leaf and some of those leaves protect all the other parts of the bud, right, to a degree. And if you and I was getting buds where they were like big buds and I put them in the mason jar and it's like 1 bud or 2 buds in there. They weren't getting smashed. You'd have this big, beautiful bud that had all this great shape to it and all this stuff that was untouched.
Right. And then you pull the peel off the banana and you've got a perfectly good banana, right?
Exactly. We never really touched the tops. I didn't want fingers on my buds ever. You touch the stems, whatever, you smell it, you can smell it, but don't be pinching people walk through the room, don't pinch my buds.
Do you know,
now it's not a big deal, but.
Well, I got introduced to this technique. I've seen a lot of people do a lot of crazy shit, and half the time I go, "You're just a kook," and the other half the time I go, "You got to be a fucking genius." Like I'm, and what is that saying? Every genius is called a lunatic until everybody goes, "Oh, he's a genius." Shout out to Tyson Redbeard at Root Cellar. Yeah, he's somewhat of a recluse, and the way he tested bud was he'd grab your bud right out of the bag or out of the jar, take a little bud, and he'd go walk into it. I was like, "You're just being an asshole, right? You're just fucking destroying bud, right?" And then I realized, no, he's kidding the ass. Like, there's a part of me like still wants to go, just being an asshole, right? You're just fucking with people. And the other part of me goes, no, I think you're really getting something out of that.
I think there's a little of both.
Right.
A little bit of both.
But, and anybody who knows Tyson out there.
Lemon zest. Yes. It's like the lemon zest of your weed.
Yes.
He's zesting your bud.
Yeah, exactly. And but I think he was also just trying to see how you'd be like, dude, back in the day, that was money. Now you're just like, fine. Yeah. Dude, that's.
So with Canna, you guys make all kinds of different products. You make stuff for hydro, like water, deep water culture. Right. You have organic. You have everything.
So we were one of the first nutrient companies to figure out that different medias require different micro and macro and processes.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got basically the first one that we ever came up with before we were really a manufacturer when the owner was just making it for himself, which a lot of Dutch guys did. That's the same thing as Van der Swan of House and Garden. The old man was growing flowers, and they were both growing. That's the same. Several people in Holland were legitimate flower growers.
Yeah,
and then illegitimate flower growers on the side as well.
Yeah,
and then they would make their own nutrients.
Sure.
And then, finally one day the father or the son or the uncle would be like, the brother would be like, well, we can sell these nutrients. And so they would get into that game. And that's basically what happened with both House and Garden, Canna. No relation, but just both.
Sure.
So the first was our SUBSTRA. They called it hydro over there, but it's I say run to drain. The traditional is run to waste.
Drain to waste or run to waste.
Run to waste. But no one in America likes that because they're like, the wasting? You're like, yeah. It has to run off, and then you don't use that anymore.
Yeah, it goes away.
Yeah, it's called runoff. So that was what we call our SUBSTRA. That was our flagship original. And then he was like, "Well, people are recirculating. You don't have this. You can't use the same nutrient.
Right.
You need to have a pH buffer, a stabilizer. You need to have the nutrient somewhat time released because the first
flood and drain or
So
DWC.
Flood and drain. DWC. I'd tell anybody to stay away from DWC.
Really. I know a couple of people that crush it with DWC.
Here's the problem. As soon as you get introduced to the science, it'll fall apart.
Yeah.
Water can only hold 60% oxygen.
Yeah.
Right. In order for a plant not to have issues, it has to be in at least 18% oxygen. So you are on the threshold of fucking up. And temperature, uncontrolled, that's why most need to either be in a cool basement or the current culture works because they've got full horsepower chillers.
Right.
So that they can keep the temperature down, especially with the movement of the water, heating up. Warm water is also the issue. We talked about that earlier. So that's the Aqua series is for recirculating. Deep water culture, NFT, which is gone by the wayside, right? Have you ever seen an NFT table?
Not really.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. Deep water culture, NFT, drained away, flood and drain. And then we realized soil's different. Yeah. A charged soil is going to be different. Mm-hmm. So, because there should be something in the soil. Like if you use our SUBSTRA you can use it on rock wool. That's the run to drain. You can use it on rock wool. You can use it on any of the peat moss mixes, I think King's Mix is close to that. It doesn't have too much of a charge in it, right?
Right.
So, or any of the...
King's Mix is amazing.
I do.
It's amazing. Yeah. Vital, King's Mix, those are the ones I use.
King's Mix, I was so surprised that it took them a minute to come out with that product, but
Well, that was organic for the longest time, and then they took it away. It's still I don't care. In my mind,
I really, organic, I also think that they were dealing with 707, the 707 bag from Roots.
Yeah.
And it's a way superior.
Fallout from that.
Yeah. It's a superior product, by the way. And if you're outdoors and you do a short crop, you just use the bag. That was, So you can use the SUBSTRA in that. You use the Aqua in the recirculating, cocoa in cocoa. If you use our cocoa nutrient, the liquid, I would prefer you use my cocoa bag. But if you don't, because there are other Royal Gold mix of cocoa out there. I think
the Tupper.
I think the Tupper is superior to their cocoa. I think it also in sales is superior.
Yep.
It has a charge in it though.
Yep.
But you want to stay away from perlite. You're basically, people always like, I'm like, why do you put, dude? And it's destructive. It's not reusable. It's not,
We always used to use perlite back in the day.
I know, but stay away from perlite.
Yeah.
Just whatever you can do.
We used to use vermiculite and perlite back in the day.
I was taught, I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo for a while, and I was taught by the botanists and the ornamental horticulturists there how to do cuttings, right? Yeah. There's no such thing as a clone. There's a cutting. Mm-hmm. In the ag world, they call cuttings. They're like, that's not a clone. It's just a cutting, but things are interchangeable.
Strain is almost on the same wavelength.
Exactly. Thank you. So the original cutting and high producing ag mix was 75% perlite, 25% vermiculite, constant drip. Because it basically just goes,
goes away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, and then we have the cocoa for the cocoa. I'd stay away from perlite and cocoa because the properties of the cocoa are what we researched our cocoa nutrient to be. And the more perlite you put in there, the less cocoa you have. And so the more likelihood our nutrient isn't going to be optimized. Not that it doesn't work,
Totally.
Okay. And we have an organic, but that's going to be in pre-charged organic, and then soil. So soil, cocoa, soil for a pre-charged bag, something like the Roots or the basement mix from those guys, or Mendo mix.
Right.
I think the Mendo mix is better for our soil. So that's the what we call Terra, cocoa for cocoa, aqua for recirc, and SUBSTRA for run to drain.
Yeah.
And then we only have one additive. The rest we call either supplements, or not really a supplement, but something that just helps, but it's not needed, Yep. And the only additive that we suggest is a PK, because PK is a time-sensitive nutrient.
Oh, we got something special here.
Oh, yeah.
That I want to talk about.
Yes.
So let's talk about this product.
Okay.
I think this is amazing. We're trialing this right now, and I think this is special.
Underrated. Yep. And the problem, not the problem, here's the deal, is most cultivators, home or commercial, just take quarter strength. That was the original GH mix.
Right.
Quarter strength of each, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's your baby formula.
Yeah.
The research that we did was that the micronutrient ratio in quarter strength full nutrient doesn't have the same that the plant needs. So this product is specifically for seedlings, popping seeds, and the first 2 weeks of a rooted cutting.
Yeah.
And that's because that plant needs, for it to become a mature plant, it is going to require different micronutrients. And so that ratio is way different. This is very underrated. The problem I have with this is most people don't think it's worth it because they're lazy and they don't want to buy another bottle.
Right.
But if you're in the seed game or in the cutting game, this is a game changer.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to test all this stuff out. I mean,
this with our
you guys were
Rhizotonic,
generous. I got some bottles of this stuff.
Yeah. I can't wait to get your feedback on this, because I'm excited, because most people just don't. They're trying to save money.
Right.
And they're trying to save protocols, right? I got to add one more step in. I got to add another nutrient and another. And like, yeah, but you're going to get,
Yeah, but I think also a lot of people don't collect data. So they're like, well, it's not that big of a deal. But it's like, okay, so if you can have your clones to market sooner, your cuttings, you can have those to market sooner. So instead of it taking 2 weeks.
Back to our time thing.
Yeah, exactly. Back to the time thing. Now, if we can save 3 days on that, or 2 days, or even 1 day over the period of 5 years.
Imagine if you didn't get charged rent for the first 3 days.
Yeah.
You only had to pay 27 days worth of rent. Mm-hmm. That's the analogy I like to use, or mortgage, or
And talking about if you're using seeds, like let's say you're growing from seeds at scale. You know what I mean? And you get a higher ratio of seeds that not only germinate, but that thrive once they're germinated. I think that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited about. Now, we collect the data, so we'll be able to go side by side.
I'm really excited about that, because you are absolutely correct. It is amazing to me how many people out there, they know what the root temperature of the room is.
Yeah.
They know what the nutrient mix is. They know what their dosatron's at or whatever. Yeah. They know all that, but they're like, but what did you look into this? Did you look into that? Like, no, I know it already.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Well, how does this compare to this?
Right.
Or how does this compare to that?
Right.
And we have to have that mindset now. It's not like it used to be. It can't be, we just do it because we do it, right? Like there's nothing that goes on in our facility. We don't just do it because we do it. We want to do it in the best way, most efficient way possible. And also we want to be able to give feedback to our customers on how to get the best results, whether it's with seeds, whether it's with, cuttings, clones, whatever it is, to get the best product for them so they can be successful, because it's a tough time in the industry. So
it's more you can everywhere.
Like the more you empower me, the more I empower my customer, the more they get better results. And so that they can hopefully make more money and continue to buy seeds or continue to buy clones.
Right. I've always said that. The more I make my customer make more money, the more they will have a likelihood of buying things from me.
Right.
So you can foliar this just like our Rhizotonic. Everything I have has to, for its application to work, no matter what liquid I'm selling you, has to have roots.
Yeah.
All right. But there is uptake in foliar. Mm-hmm. It's not of the same ratio. Yeah. And so a lot of people who do cuttings and do not have roots at the cutting You can foliar certain things like our Rizzo or this.
Yeah.
But the minute you see roots, you want to start feeding the roots.
It's awesome.
So yeah, dude, this product is inexpensive, easy to use. You only use it for the problem. I think also too is most people are like, I only use it for 2 weeks. Like that's at the longest, like, because then you're going to want to start putting in a mature nutrient solution.
Yeah, higher ratios.
Yeah, and with different micro and macro ratios.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing too is I don't know if the world quite knows why the people, I think luckily due to people like you and me and other educated people out there, there's a reason there's 3 numbers on a bottle.
Yeah,
because it's the ratio, right? It's not. A lot of people, it needs more nitrogen. Well, anybody out there, Google nutrient wheel. Every nutrient has at least one other nutrient it affects. So if you add more nitrogen, you may affect the CalMag uptake. And if you add more phosphorus, you're definitely messing with the PK and iron uptake. And those, so I suggest anybody go out there and Google nutrient wheel, get that image and see, just for their own peace of mind, knowing that you can't just add one, because there is no, even if it says 500, there's other things in there besides nitrogen.
Yeah.
And the other 2 numbers, the phosphorus and the potassium, aren't 100%. Right. Like one's at 35 because it's potash and the other is at phosphorus rock, which is 65%, right? So people have to, I just like to educate people on that,
Well, and I think it's confusing. Well, a lot of stuff is counterintuitive and people don't want to ask.
No. And that's why there's things called soil science degrees and botany degrees and ornamental.
But there's also, we have Google. There's Google and YouTube. I mean, you can learn a lot on YouTube.
YouTube for sure.
Go ask your AI program. It's like there's, nowadays.
Stop.
You might not get the right information. Right?
Okay. But bad in, bad out. Remember?
Yeah, but I think there's all kinds of places we can get information besides
like this show. This show and other this show is just so awesome that we can do this. I really appreciate people like you doing this so that there is the ability to get data collected, years of experience, information without going to school or trusting, I worked at a retail store and one of our shirts that I wanted to make was on the front, it says your buddy and on the back is full of shit.
Yeah.
Because you know how many times, well, my buddy, my friend, and you're like, well, why are you asking me?
Right.
And he doesn't even know what the fuck he's talking about. You know what I mean? So, and shows like this, which is tried and true, tested, you're spending the rest of your day trying to figure out what the protocols and the procedures and is it a half a mil? Is it 4 mils? Is it once a day? Is it every other day? Is it twice a day? Is it every week? Is it, is it at night? Is it during the day?
Do I use under canopy lights?
To
Game changer.
One of my inventions that you can go ahead and have was the tent made out of T5s.
Really?
I was going to have a
tent.
The T5 tent. Every surface was just T5s.
Yeah.
Dude, under canopy light for sure. Or I always wanted to do Mylar on the floor.
Yeah.
But it just gets dirty.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So under canopy light for sure.
Yeah.
And
this sounds like something for Burning Man too.
For sure.
The T5 room.
Exactly. Make it all red light, right? Because that's the jam, right?
Far red.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I want our industry to discover is what this scientific kook indoor cultivation needs more UV. Yeah. It just does. That's why sun-grown is some of the best weed. It has the disadvantage of environmental impacts like wind, rain, animals, other, not so much sun.
Well, there's more variables. There's less
that you don't control.
That you don't control. Right. And so,
but that sun.
Yeah.
That's my God, first of all, and the power of that sun. And it's one of its aspects is UV.
The future is mixed light.
Yeah.
For sure.
PL lighting is coming out with that. I've always said that. I don't want to knock any, and I know I get a lot of pushback from this on LEDs, but LEDs have a lot less UV than any of your double-ended or your mogul-based HIDs. And so we've lost a lot on that. And I think that you need to supplement UV when you use LEDs.
So there's still a lot of things that we're learning about light spectrum. We have spectrum tuning now, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But, we had Grandmaster LED, Thomas from Grandmaster LED on the show, and he's talking about his bug light. that helps eradicate thrips and mites.
Dude.
Using UVC.
It works.
It's really cool.
It works. But it's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning. We're just scratching the surface of all this cool stuff.
Right.
I think every year there's innovation made in certain places. We've been kind of stagnant on some of the stuff.
Well, I mean, we're fighting on the LED situation, the culture, and people like us who have been doing it for a long time with the get off my lawn old man thing is there was 4 to 8 generations of LEDs that were gimmicks.
Oh yeah, I mean, I talked about it.
And so for a long time,
it started with the blur poles, and I said I'd never use LEDs.
But the UFOs,
yeah. Oh, I mean, these are examples of why I'm so open-minded now, because I've been in the industry long enough to where I was there when feminized seeds were first hitting the market, and we were like, no, dude, they're gonna ruin the gene pool.
Autoflower.
Then it was autoflower, and it was like they're gonna ruin the gene pool, and now I breed autoflower, and then it was the LEDs, and I was like, no. Now I'm like, well, let's see what happens. I would rather just, instead of saying no, that's not going to work, I want to see the future of that once they have it dialed in,
right?
With everything,
and it's never like, I mean, listen, it's unfortunate, but a lot of this stuff comes from other industries. We knew about metal halide, the high pressure sodium metal halides, and way before they were ever a consumable product in the indoor cultivation, and I was like, I want one. Like, they're still one of the best mogul bases, right? Or plasma lights. I still haven't seen plasma lights. And plasma lights have been around forever, and they have wonderful applications that Of course, a lot of these things create heat, and everybody's trying to. That's the LED stick, but then I realized that their DBD was way off because they didn't quite get it, that you actually need that heat and that moisture from the plant, or, so now you've got to manipulate that when you use LEDs. And that's not a negative. That's just knowing and not knowing, right? So you've got to, because you're like, well, at least you have the opportunity to control the situation and be in charge of the inputs, right?
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, the first LEDs, people were like, I'm not. You're like, oh, you're missing a factor. You're missing 2 or 3 factors.
Yeah.
One is heat. One is moisture. And, you're going to have to somewhat supplement how those, you don't have to add heat. You probably have to add moisture and take out moisture at certain times.
Sure.
But, and so, yeah, the open mind thing is definitely, just like, it
comes with age too.
It does.
When you're in your 20s, you think you know everything. And then by the time you get to your 40s,
it's like,
a
goddamn thing. I don't know anything.
You realize that you don't know shit.
Yeah.
And if you still think you know shit, you got something wrong, because you've learned that you're not as smart as you thought you were in every aspect, right? You might be focused and an expert in one thing, but there's a gazillion things that you could focus on and become an expert in. So you can't be an expert in everything.
Yeah. And I also think that, I think I grow the best weed has got to be one of the worst things I've heard.
Well, so this is an ego thing, and it's also a pride thing, right? You take pride in it, and the thing is it'll blind you.
Arrogantly.
Yeah, I mean, this is like ego will blind you because you've grown this thing and you've been part of its life through its whole lifespan, right? From the time it was a clone or it was a seed, and you've grown with this thing, and it's
since they were babies, right?
Yeah, and then you harvest it, and you have it, and in your mind, and obviously some people are much different than others. I think the guys that are the biggest critics usually have the best weed. They never think their weed is good enough.
Right.
SF Canna, my buddy that grows for SF Canna, he's always trying to grow better weed, and he still thinks he doesn't have it down. Even when it's the best, he's like, oh no, he knows when it's good, but he's one of those guys that every time he has a harvest, he's like, what could I do better next time? It's not like, I nailed it and I nail it every time. And some of these guys are like, dude, my weed is the best. And they'll come up to me and they're like, dude, the best harvest ever, man. You got to smoke it. Mine is the best. Or my other friends, pizza. This is the pizza thing that we have. Everybody thinks they make the best pizza. We're going to have a contest between my friends.
Yeah.
But cannabis guys. But yeah, I mean, ego is there's harsh reality that goes along with that too. It's like, can you sell the product? Because if it's so good, then why aren't you selling it?
Right.
Right. And I think that, and it comes down to being able to do a lot of A/B testing and finding out what works best for you and for your room, and really being able to distill all the stuff that you're doing down into data that you can analyze, right? I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, that's why these nutrient companies are so successful with testing out their recipes now, because they can, because it's legal, and they have no problem testing it on cannabis. I mean, some of them did it before anyway.
Yeah.
But now you can do it legally pretty much, and you can do it with your clients.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, a lot of these guys have chromatography that they're using for stuff, you know, and it's like pretty amazing. We're in an amazing place. You guys are doing amazing stuff.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I think I also, this is one of the platforms that I want to talk to growers about is that price per gallon of nutrient, no one cares. And you shouldn't either, because that has been the last 2-3 years. And we all know that came from.
There's some crazy expensive stuff out
there. There is. And
is it better?
Does it give you the same percentage? Like if it costs you 20% more, are you getting 20% more yield? Right. And then, you know, and people would point to me and say, well, you're the most expensive nutrient on there. And I was like, I'm not the most expensive nutrient. In fact, if you run cocoa AB in a bag of cocoa and you buy one of my 14.95 liters of PK, I probably will cost you $50 a 4x4.
Yeah.
People are like, no. I'm like, do the math.
Do the math.
Yeah. You know, now do I sell Boost that's somewhere around $100 a liter at full retail? Yes. But does it increase concentration production?
Yeah. Are you getting bang for the buck?
Yeah.
Right. So at the end of the day, it's all about bang for the buck.
But, you know, things like, I always stay away from mentioning another product, but there were products out there made by manufacturers. One that changed the game that had 13 bottles when it first came out, and it did change the game.
It did change the game.
But some of its stuff, I was like, that's just fucking like snake oil.
There's a lot of companies.
It's just snake oil.
There's a lot of nutrients out there. There's no reason.
No.
And then there was dark energy.
Well, and listen.
And
dark energy and what was the other one they had? They worked. Were they worth the price?
Liquid Karma and dark energy. I love those things.
Yeah.
So for me, dark energy was 100% worth it.
Do they still
so they banned it in California. So basically, sea kelp is now banned because it's a natural PGR. So PGRs are banned. So because it's a PGR, even though it's sea kelp, it is banned in California. Go figure. But dark energy for me 25 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer.
Made by American Hydroponics.
It was such a game changer for me, though. It was like I didn't know what I was doing before. That's how I felt. Like when we harvested and it was done and we smoked it, it was like, what were we doing? Because this is where it's at. Right. And it's you have those aha moments throughout your life where it's like you figure it out, you know? And then that was like, whoa, this is what really good. When you're growing, this is
this is the next, I've got to the next level. And then that's when, as someone we were talking about earlier who recognizes that you don't, or puts that on yourself that I may not be growing the best weed, because there is no such thing as the best weed. Right. It can always be a little better. And then once in a while, you'll see that from like the worst grower. You're like, what the fuck did you do? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, even from harvest to harvest.
Right.
So if you look at flower, there's 70 days in the life of a plant. If you equate it to like a human, that's like a year for every day that plant is alive is like a year in a human's life. Right. And so there's so many little micro variables that can go on within that room, within the day-to-day,
the hour,
the night, the temps, the humidity, all those things that you can control to a degree indoors. But at the same time, from one harvest to the next, that's why it's hard to create constant, chemovars that are consistently expressing the same chemical profile. It's a lot harder than people think.
Watering alone. Yeah. You just can't, the situation may be different that morning, and then the retention of the media may be different.
Well, if you're using hard water, the water changes throughout the year. So there's nothing consistent about hard water, about water coming from, if you're in the city and you're using water, you're not distilling it, or if you're not using RO,
reverse osmosis, removing RO and getting it down to like 0 to 5, at least,
But there's benefits to RO, but it's very wasteful. And like we have a RO system for the misters.
Gotcha. So you don't get clogs and
Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but if your water is at 160, which is like Colorado is less than that, all that snow melt that they get. And even into Denver, but if your water is 160 or less, I would have to see some hard data on why you're going to take the extra 160 out, unless it's got a specific heavy metal in it. Like it ran through some weird lead pipes and it's
pathogens. If you want to prevent pathogens and you're susceptible, there's stuff that gets brought in through the water for sure.
Right.
But, clean room practices
but a lot of times all you need is a dechlorinator. And which I would suggest everybody who's getting water from a municipal source should definitely at least get a small boy or a large boy or any other product made that dechlorinates it. Because chlorine, especially if you're doing the living, I don't know soil science 101.
It will change your EC though. For sure. It will change your EC as it's pulling stuff out, as it's cleaning and you won't get chlorine, which is good.
Right.
But at least let your water sit 24 hours if you're not doing that.
The problem what I have with that, and I agree with that, is that most water treatment places now use several versions of, chloramine, chloramide, not just chlorine.
Bromine.
Yeah, and those don't intentionally don't just dissipate through sitting there.
Yeah.
So
they don't evaporate
like chlorine does.
Yeah.
So I would always, and especially if you're in soil, the thing, we're a synthetic company. We do make an organic bio. You can't get it in California. It's unfortunate, but in the rest of the states, most of them, I think all the others you can get the bio. But if you're using anything in soil, you definitely want to get, and if you're using any sort of sugar to feed any of the cultures that are in there, your trichoderma and your all the bacilluses, right? The chlorine kills that on purpose. So that's why you would want to, if you're in a soil mix, and you want to reap the benefits of having a charged soil, and organic,
soil.
You want exactly.
A happy soil,
You don't want to put poison in there.
Yeah,
just like I suggest a lot of people in the hydro game like to use H2O2 in a routine maintenance. And I think that's like treating a cold with chemotherapy. If you can keep a clean system without constantly adding H2O2, because H2O2 is
H2O2 is chlorine dioxide, right?
It's hydrogen peroxide.
Oh, it's hydrogen peroxide. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Which basically kills any organic material it comes in contact with because the
H2O2.
radicals.
You're right.
Yeah. So, but if it's excessive.
It's HClO2 is chlorine dioxide.
Right. And so, which is good.
Hydrogen peroxide is good for certain application, right? Cleaning.
Clean all your trays with chloride, bleach, right? And do all your, if you're going to, I used to clean hydrogen. Yeah. And I would do that with, and you don't need a lot of H2O2. That's the thing, is you don't need a lot. But it's only for cleaning. Yeah. It's not for maintenance.
Same thing with chlorine dioxide.
Right.
Like ClO2, we only use that to clean the lines.
The drippers.
It'll go
in between runs.
Absolutely.
Right. But you it's pretty destructive if you use it as a routine thing.
No, you don't use it for anything else.
So.
But it's great for eating all that stuff that's in there.
So that's another benefit of ours is we have a low salt index. I just a couple more plugs on Canna is we have one of the lowest salt indexes.
Yeah. And that's huge for using drippers.
Right.
It's like, I think a lot of and using organics, you don't want to use drippers, obviously, because they clog.
I think that's the problem with a lot of salts that people are using.
A lot of salts have a lot of problems because of that, It's
fallout, And I don't like to bash because salts have their place, but you're going to run into issues.
But they will build up. They will build up in your lines.
And then that influences your pennies per. When people go, I can get it for 4 cents a gallon. I'm like, did you include labor? Did you include the stock tank? Did you include the space that you could have been using for something else? Right. Did you include your dripper maintenance? Did you include all the other factors? And I was like, can I see your spreadsheet on 4 cents a gallon? Because if it's really 4 cents a gallon, I'd fucking like to see that because I'd like to sell that.
Yeah.
And people are like, no, I didn't do a spreadsheet. So you're just doing the simple math of 100 gallons and how much it costs to make you 100 gallons? Right. And you didn't include any other fucking external factors that are involved in that? And you're like, then no.
Right.
And no one cares. You don't put that on a bag. This is fucking, runts made with fucking 3 cents a gallon. In fact, they wouldn't buy it.
No. Right.
So.
People just don't care.
No.
But what they do care about is the quality of the end product and the branding. Unfortunately, the branding kind of.
I was just at my friend's dispensary and we were talking, and this is an age old. I feel somewhat sympathetic for and sad for the brand new generation of consumers who care how shiny the Mylar bag is.
They get duped into buying inferior products by high-end marketing, right? Exactly. All the time. That's what I love about Huckleberry Hill Farms.
Dude, that guy.
Johnny?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, same thing.
Dude, I'm a little envious, like, which is good. You know what I mean? Like
Jason from Ridgeline, Johnny up there, like those guys are doing it, and they're doing it the right way. I feel like with good ethics.
Right.
And they have a good product that goes in, and I love their flower. I love everything about their brand.
Yeah. Sunbolt is the same. She's a old hippie chick up there who's doing it. So
if you had one piece of advice for your younger self that was just getting into the industry, what would that one piece of advice be?
I lucked out by being osmosis information and adjacent information. But I would suggest to anybody who wants to get into this to take a few courses at a college, one in soil science, and the other is in a botany, maybe organic chemistry. Yeah. That knowledge will separate you from all the other cultivators. Yeah. Just that couple semesters. Well, maybe 3, soil science 101, botany, whatever botany classes is, and biochem, and you got to put yourself, that's the hard part is you're like, and I lucked out. And the other advice that I would give to anybody is I always forget the name because it was such a jarring experience, but those 2-day seminars in management, God, what's the company called? There's a guy, it's named after him, but he sends people around, and I can't remember what it is, but
Tony Robbins?
Yeah.
Is it Tony Robbins?
Is it him? No, it's somebody else. But basically, learn how to if you want to, you can't be, dude, having a couple duplexes or a couple bedrooms or basement, okay. But the minute you get into your position or any other position, you got to learn management skills. And sometimes you don't like what the management skill taught you. Like you gotta fire your junkie friend. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's tough hiring friends, man. That's one of the toughest things ever is hiring friends, working with friends. I love working with my friends. Don't get me wrong, but hiring friends it's tough.
So classes, I think classes that I think
you can take classes. I love the work culture and also, being a chef. You were also a chef. Yes. We didn't really talk about that on the show, but you were a chef in San Francisco. I was a chef in San Francisco.
You want to talk about a pressure situation. Yeah. Those were, I can't even watch. My wife was watching The Bear. And halfway through, I'm like, I'm going to go outside.
It's so funny. Most chefs I know don't want to.
I'm going to go outside. This is post PTSD.
Yeah. I worked as a line cook over there, and I worked on the grill, at some restaurants, and that's a high pressure thing. But the one thing I really love about the restaurants is basically it's a mentorship program, right? Like you mentor the people underneath you. And I feel like our industry is very, very much just like that. Like if you're a good manager, what you do is you mentor the people under you. You teach them everything you know so that they can be the best person that they can be. And then hopefully they grow up to be like you and do that with other people. And it goes on for generations. Right?
Yes. And carry it on. Yeah. Yeah. So
carry on the torch.
Yes.
It's like,
because that's another product you're making.
Yeah.
Everything that you're doing as a cultivator isn't just about the plant.
Right.
It's about other things you're making that become valuable out in the world.
Well, in some ways it's making the world a better place, right?
Yeah.
Like same thing with food. I feel like making good food, you're doing the Lord's work, but you're making the world a better place because you're making people happy.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, and same thing, anything related to cannabis, if you're involved in that stuff, hemp, cannabis, this plant is special and you make the world a better place just by being a part of the industry.
Yes.
A good part of the industry.
Yeah. I mean, you and I, we've experienced the criminality of the industry.
Yeah. I mean, there's people that have taken away from that.
Right.
Right. But, I love being a part of this thing that's so much bigger than myself. Right. Like just being a part of that makes me happy and makes me smile. It's like, and that's contagious.
Oh yeah.
Like that happiness is contagious. It goes around and people pick up on that. And even if they think you're weird, they might be interested. Like, well, what does he love about this so much? It's
that's
crazy.
why the shoreline is always something like, oh, shoreline's like,
it's the shoreline, and it's special.
Yeah.
And the way the blades, it has super sharp blades on the leaves. So yeah, it's a special plant. So if people are trying to find out more about you, how can they do that? Or where can they go?
You go to cannagardening.com.
Okay.
That information will be there. And you go into your local retailer if you want. But cannagardening.com, and you can reach out and one of us will get back to you. You
guys have an Instagram too? It's
Official Canna.
Official Canna.
Yeah.
Yep. And you can reach out. You guys got some good content on there.
Yeah. Hit Official Canna.
We've worked together on some stuff with Canna. I love you guys. You guys do a great job. And I look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely. You guys have a good one.